My name is Willis Brown. I'm president of the Bronzeville Neighborhood Association. We just completed a 2.5-hour tour with the Ohio CDC organization members that came to the conference in Columbus, Ohio today, October the 4th, 2023. And we did a nice tour of the Bronzeville community, our 1 square mile, showing its past, its present, and its future with its new development, its present with what's going on today, and its past where we saw and took people back to the 1930s. We're showing what we built with the Lincoln Theater and other structures in the neighborhood. And we had about 45 members on the bus from the CDC, and they were excited about the tour, and they were enlightened about the importance of Bronzeville history and the history of Columbus. And it's not only history of Columbus, it's America's history. A little background about myself and Miss Parks, who we worked together in the Bronzeville neighborhood years ago, and we're still doing things. But what is more of the excitement is to see the revival of an urban community and its challenges. We like to say the challenges is more of political, because its revival came from the bottom up. We decided that we wanted to do something different and better. And we had to spend time doing the research, about 2 years, 2.5 years, getting all the documents that identify Bronzeville for what it is, or what it was, and what it can be. And the story goes that I was very much involved. My background is agriculture, not even this kind of stuff. But sometimes you get into it, and I came here from New York. I'm originally from Harlem, and came to Ohio after going to Elmira College in upstate New York, and then going into the Cornell for agriculture, and came here after Cornell to work. And been stuck here ever since. So I like it here. Yeah, it's a very nice city. But being in Bronzeville allowed me to see a lot of things going on. And when the neighborhood, when I was doing the research, there was this thing about Bronzeville and the paper that they saw back in, I guess, the 30s. There was a paper where they had a mayor and all this stuff. I thought that sounds good. They said, well, listen, Willis, if you really want to do that, you need to look into that. And I did. It took 2 years to find the one article that was written in the Columbus Dispatch where it says, Bronzeville elects mayor. I said, wow, impressive. But there was a piece missing. That was another 6 months. And in that 6 months, and so therefore, and I found the piece. And that one little paragraph in the back is what gave us the legs to revive. It stated that Bronzeville is sandwiched between Broad Street to the south. At that time was the Pennsylvania Railroad to the north, Woodland Avenue to the east, and Cleveland Avenue to the west. And with those, it identified the boundaries. That was really, because sometimes when you get something that valuable, people just think it's nothing. But every time we mentioned it, people said, well, what proof do you have? Fortunate for us, that article was written by an African-American by the name of Jesse Jackson, who was from the neighborhood, and wrote it as a freelance writer for the Columbus Dispatch. So it was in the white paper that gave it the support, because people said, well, the black paper wouldn't have that in there because they know where they are. They had other articles. They call themselves the Bronzevillians, the Bronzemans, and so forth. So with that, we went to council and we presented it to council. We were all excited. And the response was, council has 7 people, 4 which were African Americans. The response was silence. And we were like, what do you mean? This is something great. This is like finding King Tut to say, hey, what happened? And it was silent, because what I found out later is it is one thing to say you're great, but then to identify and find that you're great. Some people are afraid of greatness. And our biggest fight was with the people that look like us and the city council that we had at that time. But they were able to we wasn't giving up. So we're able to find and to get Bronzeville established by City Council with the help of the City Council President Hardin today, and we have it recognized by the state government with Herschel Craig as our senator, and Dontavius Gerald as our representative. And we also have, right at the federal level, because of our Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, who made that case. So now we are recognized and we're here to stay. And the Bronzeville came from the Bronzeville, Chicago. They were the first. And the reason why the term Bronzeville came up is that in that time in the 30s, there's a lot of negative connotated words such as the black neighborhood, that other neighborhood, that so forth and so on. So he wanted something different. And he came up with the term bronze because he said the Bronzeville area it's made up of many hues. African Americans go to very light to very, very dark. So to make bronze is a conglomerate of metals. 80% copper. You can put, you know, a statue is the mixture of magnesium. Different metals can make bronze. But what bronze did was it changed. It gave it a different flavor. And in 1930, they had an election in Bronzeville where they elected a mayor and so forth. But they were communicating between Bronzeville, Chicago, and Bronzeville, Columbus because they were relatives. Moving up the Ohio Valley from the valley from down in Mississippi all the way up into Chicago during the 20s, when there was the war and so forth. So there was a communication that make this happen. And the Bronzeville came as an economic movement. And we talk about what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And that was sad, but they didn't rebuild. Bronzeville is still existing today in Chicago, Milwaukee, Columbus, and there used to be a Bronzeville, LA. After the war, when the Japanese were interred, African Americans went there. You know, after the war, they stayed and they worked together to build a Bronzeville, LA. But it doesn't exist so much as it used to, but not like we're doing here or Milwaukee or Chicago. And so with that being said, a little history about bronze. That's why whenever I get a chance, even here, I got to make a statue for Mr. James Gentry. He's the one that coined, he was the writer for that the Defender, the Chicago Defender, because the term has more power than just the hues of people. The Bronze Age was the most significant age of human development because it was the age that ushered in urbanization, because the bronze would allow people to make better tools for weapons and also for farming. Therefore, you can farm outside your region and produce more because you have better tools and live in the urban area like we do today. So the Bronze Age was very significant in human development. So we are proud of the term Bronzeville to make it here.
That's on my schedule at the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are, you know, just to give you a background of Bronzeville and the political struggle that we've had. And you're going to see here as we go down the street, you'll hear myself and another colleague is coming on board to help us with this. But, you know, I say that from Harlem, and my grandfather being a Garveyite and all of that good stuff, Harlem was the Mecca. But here was the sauce, because if African Americans in Harlem were to do what they did here, they would have hung them with their eyes open on Sunday. Here, the African Americans built buildings, put their names on them. And Ohio State graduated 1 to 2 African Americans from the late 1800s to the 1930s and 40s. So, you know, in Harlem, we inherited the buildings. We didn't build them out the ground. You're going to see buildings that we built out of the ground. And and in America, that's what matters. You get a piece of land, you build something, you put your name on it, and if you go to the moon, you put your flag in it. So, and we created our own flag that you will see here towards the end of the tour.
Are we here?
Yeah, this is our first stop. And my colleague Dana Mesa and his mother is coming along, and they're going to hear the story. We're going to introduce them. And again, Smith is our IT person, and you're going to meet Mr. Masoner.
Dana Masoner, I'm Vice President of the Bronzeville Neighborhood Association, and you met Willis, and we're off for the tour. Hello, we're here at the Lincoln Theater, which was originally called the Ogden Theater, and it was established by the Grand United Order of Oddfellows Black Lodge, and we had several Black Lodges in the neighborhood, and the Black Lodge had this property since the 1880s. but they did not build this theater till 1928 is when it was completed. And it has the Grand United Order of Odd Fellows up on the top of the building and also on the cornerstone. And we're very fortunate in our neighborhood to have two historic theaters that were built by Black Lodges, the Pythians on Mount Vernon, and then what is now called the Lincoln Theater. And to honor the Ogden Theater's name, named after Peter Ogden, who established the Grand United Order of Odd Fellows, a Black Lodge in the United States, the adjacent building under construction on the other corner is called the Ogden. We had the talked to the developers, explained the story behind the name of the Ogden, and they agreed, so it's now going to be called the Ogden.
We got the bank.
And then in the next block, on the other side of the street, we have the
Adelphi.
new development. That's the Adelphi Quarter, and that's named after the original Adelphi Bank, which was the first black bank in Columbus, established back in 1922. And there was the original facade of the bank was covered up, but Willis Brown and I knew it was there. We had documentation. You could see pieces of it. And after much discussion with the developer, with the city, we were able to save it. So you'll see the old historic facade, and that was reinstalled on the building.
And that's onto your left side of the building.
Right, about halfway down. And it's significant to the community and to the city. And with much effort between all the parties involved, we got it back in place. It's now where a restaurant is. And then as we work our way down the street, we have the next corner at Monroe and Long. And those lots are also going to be developed. And if I may back up, this lot right across from the windows here, this is another big proposal. That's going to be a combination parking, living, and community market, a
Grocery store.
grocery store. So we're excited about that.
That's right here with this parking spaces here.
And that's another project that we've been working on for many years. For 20-some years we've been talking about this. And we said this is the only major theater in downtown Columbus. We have a group of them. There's about 5 or 6. Southern, the Palace, the Ohio Theater, and there's the Rife, so on. They all have parking garages directly across the street. Guess what? This one doesn't have one. So for years we've been saying, give us a parking garage or parking area in addition to housing above. So that's what we're going to get. So hopefully in the next 2 or 3 years we'll be breaking ground on this site.
Who owns the theater?
How old?
Who owns it?
Oh, this is
The city owns
Kappa. It's part of the group of theaters.
The city owns it and they leased it to Kappa.
Right. So Kappa manages the various theaters. And so it's considered a medium-sized theater. So it holds for particular kinds of presentations, musical groups. Columbus Opera has performed in there several times.
Okay.
So I have a question. So
Yeah.
did they, like back in the 30s and stuff when this was first built, did they have like jazz bands from all over the country coming, or was that at the other theaters?
Oh yes, there was all kinds of things here. And the exciting thing is that the Columbus Bronzeville had its big celebration in March 6, 1937 in the ballroom, which is up on the 2nd floor. And that's when we had the first mayor of Bronzeville, Reverend Scarborough, was there. It was a big celebration. There were hundreds of people up there, a big band. It was in all the black newspapers. And guess what? 85 years later to the day, March 6th, 2022, we had the 85th celebration in the very same room. Very same space, everything was the same except people were different. And the neat thing up there was we had gotten a proclamation both from the state Senate, our Senator Herschel Craig, and also from our state rep. And then we also got national recognition from our Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. So some people like to say this is King Lincoln. But we got all the recognition, we got all the proclamations, we got all the other things, we got the history that goes way back to the 30s. So King Lincoln is kind of a Johnny-come-lately.
That's right.
and it only encompasses a very small part of the larger Bronzeville neighborhood.
Sammy Davis Jr. gave a performance here when he was starting out, and all of them. It was designed like a fortress, you know, with cement reinforced floors. It had inside was all Egyptian motif in marble, Italian marble. It was very beautiful. It's still, they revived it, they redid it. It's wonderful. And they had a ballroom on the second floor. It had the theater in the back and the storefront. So it was a multi-purpose building built just like second to anything out of Broadway, because you could come out of, like you see in the movie, you come out of the dressing room and you run right on stage. That's how it was set up, just like a mini Broadway theater. Very first class in there. And they were very excited, calling themselves the Bronzevillians at the time.
And the interesting thing about these black lodges with these theaters that they built, it was a business proposition, because the lodges met up on the third floor, sometimes second floor, but all the lease space out in the front, the activities in the theater went to the lodge. So it was very successful for several years.
Yeah. Okay. And we're going to head down, but right here, you see on your left, you'll see the Adelphi Bank. That's the only African American bank in Columbus. They just opened, keeping the old name of Adelphi. It's right here to your left, and you'll see that. And again, we've been part of all the development here in the Bronzeville neighborhood, and this is it here. And then to your right, you see a building with clay tiles. That was the Teresa. We have the Bernadine, the Teresa, and you see this is the old front of the Adelphi Bank right here. We've saved it, and
You can see the name on the top.
and you can see the name engraved in there. And that was in itself was a fight. And when we stop and get off the bus, we can give you a little more details about this. Someone remind me about that. Here, to the right, you have a building, and on the top of it has the Edna on it. And we have another building that's called the Margarita. We have to say, and we are proud of, that back in the 20s, the reason why they formed the bank was because the African Americans in this community was forward thinking, and they would go to the bank and say, we need some money. The white bank said, forget you, you're not lending any money. They said, fine, we'll build our own bank and have our own money. And that they built all these buildings out of their own pocket. And see, that's the Bronzevillian that we are talking about, of that spirit. This building right here, they built, this was a hospital. It had its own hospital right there, the Alpha Hospital. And we're turning down here. We're going to turn, we see the economics. This is a building that was newly built for individuals who are going to school that had, maybe some drug addiction or some kind of issues. They got themselves straight away, and they're working to go to college. That's a new building built. And on this side as well, they have children. They can stay here, finish school, and then they move on. And that was a fight right there. Can you stop 1 second? This is interesting. The people on this block and the next block, their houses are large houses. They cost a lot of money, some of them. They didn't want these buildings because they said, those people are going to lower our value of our home. So now that the values of the homes are going up, my asking, can you donate that back to us? Because, no, they don't want to hear that. But they have been stellar. And now this building especially was built, it set the tone for Bronze. One of the first, it has real slate roof and copper flashing. You don't see that anymore. So we're going to make a turn here and continue. And then we have another building here, an apartment building coming in. So you have large development and we have some small ones. This is for 1-bedroom apartments, because Bronzeville at its height had over 70,000 residents. That's when it was 2 square miles. Now it's about 1 square mile. We have less than 10,000. So we need to densify the neighborhood, because people cry they want a grocery store, they want all these things, but you're not going to get it in America unless you have people. We are the fuel that moves the engine of the community. And again, some of these, all these houses here are over 100 years old. We are inundated with houses between 90 and over 100 in our area. And we want to continue to maintain that configuration, bring the people into the area and see what it is to be here. We have that's another building that has been renovated for our seniors are in there. So we are trying to bring it back slowly but carefully. So again, this is another street that in this heyday was housed rooming houses because they were large. So people that couldn't stay downtown, they stayed here. And that was one of the issues with the entertainers. They stayed all over the place. But because of the segregation that was here in the North was very clear. You can come and sing at the Ohio Theater, but you're leaving out of here at night. You're not staying in our hotels. So they said fine, and the African Americans here took advantage of that to build for that trade. And we have a statue on Long Street where a gentleman is playing a saxophone to highlight the music. And we said, that's wonderful. But we met a lady who renovated the Hotel Sinclair, which you're going to see. And all that group of entrepreneurs said, that's wonderful. But we were the ones that worked during the day to pay those guys at night. That was, because they slept. The musicians slept during the day because they were up night. So we got to balance that. Yeah, we talk about Duke Ellington and all those, but we have a lot of people who work during the day to fund that. And we talked about those names on Long Street with the women back in the 20s and 30s. And Dana and I were fortunate to meet some of those ladies or matriarchs that helped build this community. And they said, we asked, why did they name these buildings after these women who are the wives of these entrepreneurs? She said to us, on Sundays, they would go to the Crystal Slipper, which was across the street from the Lincoln. It was a club, and it was next to the Empress Theater. And they would have meetings. They have their tea, and they would talk about, well, what your husband is doing. What does he need money for? Because they knew the white banks wasn't going to give them anything. She said the reason that they named them after women, because they said if the husbands was going to the moon, they were going to develop the fuel to send them because they managed the money. They made the network. And to honor them, we have buildings named after women. We have one most recently, Mrs. Walker, the Walker building, behind the Adelphi Bank. She's 9, she'll be 100. She is 100. That's right, you would know her. 100, she worked in the Carter administration and communications. And when they were building the Adelphi, we pushed the issue, and we were willing to picket them, because we've done that too, to protest that you will name a building here in the tradition of Long Street after a woman. And it's the only building that was named in our time after a woman. And they wanted to put it on a plaque. I said no, because you can remove the plaque. I want it in the fabric of the building. At the top, you'll see Walker. And we have the Edna. So the men knew that back in the 20s and 30s, so they honored them by naming the buildings down Long Street after the women who were their support to build Long Street. Just a little tidbit there. Okay. Now, as you come straight here, if you look in front of you, there's a red building. You can see that the house is here. And this, and in front of us is one of the Prince Hall Masonic Lodge. And it's still here today, and it was here back then. And this is a church that was revised here again. We took over the churches and fixed them up and maintained them. But it's still a large, very active lodge. And before you move out for a second, to your right, you have a new development. And again, you can see old, new, and revised development. This building that's blue and brown was another one. African American owns that. And another developer built this one here. They're not finished with it yet. But it shows that we are making it, and we have a slogan here that we like to live by. One, that we want appropriate, sustainable development, not just any development. Because, hey, development is relative, like economies of scale. So someone that's in the woods, giving them an outhouse, they got development. We want the house that has the water running in it. So we're telling people, don't just give us anything. If you come into Bronzeville, you're going to have to give us what we want. We have to be at that level. And we've had many battles and fights because of that, because we know our value. And the other thing that we like to do to add value to Bronzeville is that Bronzeville is not for everyone. It's only for those who want to be a part of something great. So you already put a value on yourself. So when the developers come here, they know if they get by me, they have to deal with Dana. And then if they get by him, they meet with both of us. That's a bad number for them. So I'm just saying that we work hard. We want development. but we want them to understand that we know our value. And we give lectures that, you can go ahead now. We give lectures at the OSU for the architects, the undergraduate and graduate, the city regional planners, the urban geographers, to tell them what to look out for when they come into neighborhoods to develop.
Do you own some of the land and for some of the buildings?
The community?
As the CDC?
No, we don't.
So you had to influence this through advocacy almost.
Let me tell you, yes, very true. And the power of doing that is understanding the old way in America. It is that we like to say, and we make this very clear, that we are the true Americans in Bronzeville. They say, how do you mean by that? If you look at the symbol of the dollar bill, the eagle in America, the eagle is the strength of us. It's our symbol. Remember, Ben Franklin wanted the turkey because the turkey is much smarter than the eagle. But if you look in the talons of the eagle, it has the olive branches in one and arrows in another. And what that represents in America is that we always come in peace, but we're always prepared to fight. That's us here. We're always talking in peace. But when you cross us, we don't even have resources to take enemies or prisoners. We just go right for the jugular here. It's that simple. We're going to go to war, because that's what we do as Americans. We do. So we just like to keep that in forefront. So when the developers come, they know to come with something nice. Not we have to go to war. That's simple. Okay. Come down. This is the long street. Now, we're going to go right to we started from our western front. Now we're coming to our eastern border. And we are fortunate. We have, in Bronzeville today, we have a living, breathing, ethnic identifiable community, predominantly African American. We have all groups here living. But what we have is all the parts. You can go from elementary school to a 4-year top 10 college. It's a community arts and design center. You have a community college there, and we have a full school system. We also have a new library, and we have a hospital that's attached to OSU's hospital here. So we have everything in this 1 square mile. And understanding that, here's OSU East Hospital, and they're planning in the very near future to remove that tower and put something better. Because that's from the 60s. Yeah. And it went through several changes. Now this is this Taylor Avenue. If you can pause there for a second when you turn. This is a historic East High School. A lot of greats came out of there, and academics and sportsmanship. That's the famous East High School. And this is the Mason-Dixon, but we like to say that Woodland on this side is our residential component to Bronzeville that has all the mojo. So at one time, Bronzeville went all the way to Woodland, and this was included, but in the 70s it got split, and no one wanted this area because it had all the negative. So when we organized and we said, oh, no, we saw the assets. So Dana and I said, no, bring the borders to right here. And we're glad because now we have all of this. And we lend that to say that you have to see beyond the mess. If I take and give you a diamond and it's all cloudy, or you blow that off, it's still a diamond. Whether it's a marquise or emerald cut, doesn't matter, it's a diamond. We already knew we had the diamond. So we just are dusting it off now and letting it shine. And put a few of those princess cuts in there too, but
Okay, so Taylor Avenue is a very important street. It connects to Broad Street, which is one of the axes for the city, to the freeway at 670. And for some time there's been discussion on what the hospital is going to do because they're upgrading it and they want an emergency access off the freeway. Now, all our major hospitals have a direct access off the freeway. This is the only one that doesn't. So we're in discussion both with the city and the hospital on how we can resolve that. But you can see this narrow street is not very good to bring emergency vehicles down. So that hospital has a lot of raw land adjacent to it, to the west, for future development. And they are a major player in our neighborhood. There's 3 big landowners in our 1 square mile. You have the city, you have the Columbus Housing Authority, and you have OSU. So with those 3 entities, the OSU hospital is the one that is very active at the moment. And the nice thing about Taylor is that it gives us an opportunity to make, like I said, a connection from the main axis to the freeway. And the other thing about this neighborhood, which is very unusual, very important, is the old historic housing stock. We have a large amount of it. And you have that in German Village, Victorian Village, Short North, and this area. The other thing we have is we have old historic churches, a lot of them. Several of them are almost empty. Some of them don't have too many people. So the thing about these churches, they own a lot of land. They have raw land that surrounds the churches. Unlike any other inner city neighborhood, we have more big churches with more raw land, acres and acres of land. So one of the things that Willis and I have been talking about for 25 years now is these churches need to work with us in the city to build affordable housing.
And this is Pilgrim School. I will tell you that when we stop. Just remind me to tell you about Pilgrim. That's important. This there.
Right, that's one of our assets. So with the churches and the raw land that we have, we can do a lot for the housing crisis, which is in all the cities around the United States. But we have a solution. We have a church.
1 second.
Yeah, all right, can you go ahead?
No. Take a look at that house. I'm going to tell you about that one too.
Oh, yeah.
That's coming soon. Right here. It's okay. And then those apartment buildings, I'm going to tell you about that quickly. Yeah.
Right.
And we're going to stop right up here and you're going to get out and we'll talk about that.
So the nice thing about these churches is we have one church that we've worked with that was able to develop a model with a developer where they have some money coming to them, the church, for the development. So they're in it for some return. So we're working on that model with some other churches. So that is very exciting in this neighborhood. Other neighborhoods have some churches, but they don't have the acreage that we have. Raw land with no buildings on it surround these big churches. All right.
Okay, we're going to be pulling in here and we're going to get out. And then I'm going to give you the story of those structures and here. And that house, especially that house. And you're going to laugh when you hear that one. This way. But we just want to give you the gist of it because, the struggle with us is, you go to school to get a degree, you don't want to be doing what we've done. Fighting the politicians, fighting the mayors and doing all that kind of. But it worked out because look what we have today. So we're very, we made a prediction. Everyone talks about Nostradamus, but we are better than Nostradamus because we told the mayor, when you leave office, we're going to still be here fighting. He's left office and we're still fighting.
Yeah, he was there 16 years,
yeah, so
we outlasted him.
Yeah.
We knew we told him.
Yeah, we told him that. So when he sees us, he just says, those guys. So, but we're very glad that y'all are coming and getting a dose of what we have. So now the first building that we saw was the Pilgrim Elementary School. Now, when they had the old administration, we said, listen, things are happening. We can see the future. We need to make that a trade school, so that we can have an army of ex-offenders, youth in the neighborhood to work on the building trade that was coming, that we're still seeing. What you're seeing now is just a tip of the iceberg of what's actually coming here because of what? Location. Look what we have. We even have a bat cave where you can get off from the neighborhood and get right onto the freeway. You don't even know that you're getting on and off. Even when Robin slides down the pole, he can go right into the Batmobile. But the Pilgrim, we begged them to make it a trade school, and they laughed. It's still sitting there today. Now they want to know what to do with it. We could have had an army. The people that are building this community are coming from, West Virginia. They're coming from Kentucky, and making $20, $30, $40 an hour. And we have a facility that we could have gotten the contractors to help build that on. Again, that's another blunder. And then we come up to that house that I was showing everyone. That is a historic house. That's a house that Rutherford B. Hayes lived in. He was granted 60 acres in that house. and he lived there for a while. Then he sold it to other family members. Then an African American took ownership, the Hendersons, and he was a very prominent attorney, and his daughter was an entrepreneur with the first bread and breakfast facility, and it was a house that a lot of entertainers lived in. Well, the Ohio State University purchased it and wanted to level it to build another hospital there. And imagine, to fight against your own is the worst fight. Willis and Dan, you mean you don't want a hospital? We already have one. Well, we let the old building be torn down. Well, we fought that recently, and we won. They decided the fire was too hot. We're going to let that building stay. And now we have an ad hoc committee that's working to then find out its use. And we said, well, we're working on something. But here you have a building that represents true America, black and white. You have Rediscovered BAs that lived in, then you have a black ownership, and they both did great things. And it also qualifies for historic designation. So they're in the process of doing that. So it shows that if you fight long enough, you can win some things. We lost some battles as well. But that house represents, this is what we do, and we can blend that history and tell that history in that building as it gets renovated. And then across the street where they're doing the renovations, that's Woodland, of course. I told you that's the Mason-Dixon right there. Well, that's Woodland, but we work together. And just like the French help us win the War of Independence, it's okay. So, but because the organization that purchased it and then worked with the developers, they named those the Bronzeville Apartments. We said, yeah, we've done it. When our neighbors can name their building after us, which is fine, because originally Bronzeville went all the way to Woodlands, further than that. And we have the freeway, again, the easy access to the hospital, to the center. Again, we not only have a hospital, we have a clinic that's first class right here. So we have those things, and you come off the freeway, you can go anywhere, get on here and go anywhere in the U.S., that's 670, and that ties into 71 at our western border. So we are sandwiched into a very key location, and we talk about the churches to build. The key is that of, we talk about gentrification. Gentrification has all kind of denotation and connotation of what its impact is. That's fine. But we say here in Bronzeville, gentrification has a different color. For what Dana mentioned earlier, we have churches that have all the property and all the buildings that you see coming up out of here, not one person was moved out. It was empty land. So gentrification has a different face here, and we understand what that face is. What I tell people is, number one, that you must get the churches to build, because they have property. They don't have the overhead like a developer coming in buying raw land. So they say, well, put your money where your mouth is. You're not old American. I said, no problem. We then work with a church. You're going to see that Shiloh Baptist Church with the pastor Gilliard. For 2 years, I felt like the old, tormented Christians. We had to meet after work and in the basement, all that kind of stuff. But with the developers, they had to part ways. They came back. But the bottom line is they came together. And you're going to see two buildings because they owned the land. That developers came in and we negotiated. They want to give them this percentage. That says that's not enough. They end up getting 30%. They will get 30%. Those are filled of every dollar that they generate. That church gets 30%. The only one in this neighborhood has done that because the pastor Gil, who's now passed on, believed in us. And he said, you know what, y'all guys have been fighting out here. Let me do it. And we've got them together, and you have buildings coming out. So it can be done. So gentrification for us is, if you don't have churches with raw land, then it's a different story. But I keep telling them, when you talk about gentrification, you go ahead and go after those churches. And second, the responsibility is on our own people. Physics now. No two objects can occupy the same space at the same time. So when you talk about people that are coming in, what happened to those who were there? They left. So you created the problem by leaving your own neighborhood. Don't cry about someone else coming in. To see how we flip the script in Bronzeville?
So, are the churches being torn down, or are they being, or is the house next to the church?
Not at the moment. These churches were built between 1880 and 1930, and they're large brick imposing, remarkable buildings. And both Columbus Landmarks, the commission, the city, we're working with all these to find a use for these churches with diminishing congregants. That's an issue. So there's,
Oh,
right.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the churches are still there, and we're wanting to work with them to come up with a solution for their particular building, how they're going to fund it for the next future to stay there, plus the land. They can work together.
Right.
And so then another important thing, we're very forward thinking in many ways. We presented numerous projects to our previous mayor, and with models, architectural models and whatnot. So we know how to talk, we know how to put a budget together. We've done it for lighting. One of the latest things that we've done is when we had another meeting in the past month or two, we made it clear. Okay, OSU Hospital, huge enterprise, main building down on campus. I don't know if you've seen it, the Wexner, it's a monster. They're reconsidering all their buildings up here. So we're saying, okay, let's do the right thing. Remove your OSU East Hospital Complex at Taylor and Long. Get it the heck out of there, it's a problem. It needs to be built right here. This is where you need to go. You have your access right off the freeway. Do your main building here. This is for outpatient and various other things for people who need frequent appointments with doctors. Flip the script. You take this building, put that on Long and Taylor. Then you don't have the traffic problems. You have all the land. They own so much land around here.
All the way.
So that's what we're
going
telling.
west. All that belongs to them to Champion. You'll see that.
So while we're reconsidering this, let's do the right thing. Think in the long term for the next 20, 30 years. Because all the hospitals in Columbus, you have way down in Grove City, you have a big hospital right on the freeway, OSU right on the freeway, Ohio Health right up there at 315 on the freeway, Dublin on the freeway, everybody's on the freeway. Why can't we get the same thing? So we're pushing OSU, and they know that's the right thing, they just have to make it work.
Yeah. So again, if you have any questions, we can. If not, we can get back on the bus and continue. But that's just one to capture here. We're going to see some more as we go along. This little stretch. Do we have a plan, or do we just, do this on our own? Well, a few years ago, when was it? 2000, and we did 2005. We worked with the city's Mark DeVillis to create the Near East Area Plan, and we walked it, and we created that plan to say, on these streets, this is what you would do. For example, on Long Street, it is said that if you're going to build there, you have to have residential above retail. And the difference between Long Street and you're going to see Mount Vernon, Long Street is a residential corridor with commercial pockets. Yeah, you see the commercial is like at the corner, but you see housing. On Mount Vernon is more of the commercial corridor. Is more strong for commercial. So you have to design accordingly. And so we put that in the plan. So when developers come in hot and heavy, we say, hey, have you read that plan? And in the beginning, the city will say, just ignore them. Now they say, oh, we need to read the plan, because then the city got to the point and said they won't approve it. So you can't build, the city doesn't go along with you. So they go back and read it and they say, well, we have some modifications. Then we can discuss that. But for us now, you must look at that plan because it needs to be revisited. But in the meantime, it still sets a tempo when you come to the area. And that kind of guides us. At least it gives us a little teeth to tell the developer that,
Is us just the two of you, or is us the neighborhood association?
It's the neighborhood association. We are just the figureheads of the neighborhood association. And when we were getting organized, we went to Pittsburgh, a gentleman named Stanley Lowe. And he said he did the Manchester area in Pittsburgh and revived that. He said, look, when you get organized, this is what you do. You have in your bylaws that everyone that is living, sleeping, whether they own or rent in your neighborhood is a member.
That's right.
That's right.
Good.
Therefore, you represent all of them. And it changed the whole script right then and there. The power of words. And it does. And we tell people, you automatically remember, you can come. Now, to vote on things, that's another story. You got to be, there's other criteria for that. But to be engaged and do things, you automatically are a part of the association. Just by nature, you're here. Okay.
And one of the things maybe you've noticed is we're pro-development. And we work with developers. We say, okay, we have guidelines. We have a Near East Area Commission plan. We have a city plan for the area. You need to do these things. We want your development, but work with us. We need to get something. You're going to get something. You get tax abatements. You get all that stuff. What are we going to get? So we have that discussion with the developers on the front end at the very beginning. We have some neighborhoods that surround us who, for some reason, they still don't understand how that works. And they get wind of a development project, and then they start hearing things. They talk amongst themselves. Before they know it, the developer's gone to the commission. They make their presentation. Suddenly, we don't want development. We're against development. No, 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 no. And they are so frustrated, the city and developers. But in our neighborhood, we hit them at the very beginning. If we get wind of anything or we suggest a developer, then we can have a sit-down discussion because we want them, we need them, and they need our support. And we've had enough successes now that they come looking for us. They want to meet us at the front end before they even talk to the city, which is a major advancement, a win-win for both of us.
Right. So we're going to go down Taylor, and then we're going to see Mount Vernon. And you'll see that commercial corridor and that history of Mount Vernon. And Mount Vernon Mount Vernon will be getting a facelift starting next year with the streetscape to slow traffic down because we have people using it as a raceway. So they're going to put bump outs, trees in the center, all that extra lighting. So that's coming starting next year. We did a long study for that. So now it's just got to get the rest of the money. Here we're going down Atchison. This is the nice place here. Yeah. So now we get to see, Rutherford B. Hayes had all of this. You can see the house is built in this prominence. Yeah. So you can just keep going down. Yeah. And then we're going to pass a Maryland pool, which was, we also have our own public pool. They just spent $4 million to renovate it a couple years ago.
And one of the things about this house, it's interesting, we had a community meeting at the beginning of the, well, it was in the
February
spring.
6th.
Yes, February 6th. And OSU brought in some people, and the comment was made, the alleged historic house that so-and-so possibly maybe lived in. And the community said, what? So soon after that meeting, when we all stood up and said, no, you're not going to tear down, you can't do that, Columbus Landmarks came in, previous person that was on the city historic, they did the investigation. Wow, they pulled it up fast. President was there and they got all the information. So again, OSU tried to kind of reduce, belittle, whatever, not recognize our history when we knew our history, and we now have our history documented by the powers to be, Columbus Landmarks.
This is our new Maryland pool. I remember the old pool. I used to visit here and enjoy. They run this thing like a Gestapo, I'm telling you. I don't care what your issues are at home. I don't care what your mother, your father, your guardian is doing. You step in there and you move out of line 1 inch and they're putting you out. Because they said if anyone drowns here, they're liable. And you go there, I mean, you have the best of times. It hasn't had one incident in the Maryland pool. And this is the new one. But behind the pool, there was some land. They played soccer behind the pool, the big area. And come to find out that the city, the old government did some testing and found that there was arsenic in the ground. And knowing that for 2 years and allow the children to play, knowing that, Dana and I received a document from Mr. Stewart, he's now passed, say, look, this is the report. We went to City Council Monday, and said, look, you have to do something about this. The next day, they had the orange fence. It cost them $1.5 million to remediate that. If we didn't do that, those kids would still be playing. Then we had we brought the federal EPA, the local EPA to test all the housing and people and everything. So we see, if you're not on top of it, even your government can just put you in a bad space. They knew it. 2 years they allowed the kids to play.
And the key phrase which got them worked up is environmental
racism.
Environmental racism. City attorney flipped out when we said that and said, you know it. believe it or not, my mother and I came by the next morning. All the city parks and recs people were out there pounding stakes in the ground, putting the orange fence all around it.
Yeah.
And it was it took a long time to get it straight.
And then after they did that, we also gave them, they put a walking track in for the residents, and then they put the pool in. You know? And I want to say, so, you know, we are glad for that. But yeah, but the funny thing about it, how sometimes you have to present, we had the old pool, and the generators weren't working. It was that particular summer, it was like 90 degrees every day, and the kids were turning on the hydrants, you know, to cool off. So the Station 8 came to me, the captain said, listen, Willis, you got to do something. You know, we can't have them turning on. It could compromise if we have to go to a fire. The pressure's down. So I said, okay, let me go to council. So I went to council, and not knowing what to do, but I'm going to council, and I said, listen, we're going to have to do something. Well, we can't do that. We don't have it in the budget, da-da-da-da. I said, let me tell you something. Why is it that our people in our neighborhood have to play in diluted dog urine? They said, oh, my God. They said, well, how is that? Well, the dogs pee on the hydrant. Do you think that they're going to scrub it down with a disinfectant before they put it on? No. So that first word that comes out of there is got that dog urine right on it going on to those kids. Zach Klein jumped and says, Mr. Brown, Mr. Mason, we're going to fix that pool. And they not only fixed this one, they did on Dodge Hall on the west side. Got their pool fixed because of what we did. So again, sometimes you have to be graphic, but we were serious. You have to do something. And they fixed it, put a new generator in. That was in the old pool. Now they got a new one. But we saying this stuff will not go without kids not having some water to cool off in that pool. And they did it.
And Sunday we had a 105th celebration for Bethany Presbyterian Church. It's a black church there at Garfield, just down the street from the Lincoln Theater. And Archie Griffin was the featured speaker. And we found out an interesting fact. He played right out there on that field between this pool and the freeway when he was a little guy about 9 years old. That's where he started playing football. Wow. He mentioned this park.
Right. And another thing, too, that we say, when you look out this front window, you can see downtown. That's nationwide. Any city in America, if you can stand and see the downtown, it's $1 million view. It's worth that. And that's one of the reasons where we live at. When you can see that, that's walking distance. And so, again, you have to look beyond that of what you see. This was a abandoned school, and we have a charter school now that's doing very well. He put a lot of nice funds in that. And this is Atchison here. And what we see here is a transition from the old into some new development you'll see, and also the fixing up the infill house development is another big boom in our area. People are coming in and raising the quality of the homes. But we say, well, are you going to tax people? Well, we just found out that our taxes is going to go up because they did an assessment. Right. And what we are saying, and we haven't jumped on that yet, what we're saying is that you are quick to give people that just came in the neighborhood 15, 20 years of tax rate, but us indigenous people get nothing. Well, what is this here? Is it Calvary going to send Custer in next or what? So we say no. We're going to have to ask them, if you live in this neighborhood or it could be any neighborhood over so many years, 15, 20, whatever, you get a reduction of some sort or stabilization. But you can't give it to the new people who have not invested in the community, these tax breaks, and then tax people out. Fortunate for us, no one has been moved out for taxes yet or to do development, but that will be soon a bigger issue. If we don't put brakes on how we handle that, then it can be a real problem for us. But yeah, we don't want people to be taxed out.
Well, the valuations are coming next year.
Yeah. And we want them to come, people have their value, but we also say you can modify that because it's humans that do the evaluation to say, if you've been living in that neighborhood for so many years, there's some benefits to that. We haven't.
Catholic and state enabling legislation to do what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
We have been working on trying to do that and try to get a building.
Oh.
Your advocacy will be very important. We're getting a kind of principle on this is going to do it first.
Right.
But we are going to feel it throughout the state of Ohio. Right now, tax abatement is the state enabling legislation. It isn't state enabling legislation.
Right. Okay, that's good.
Let's do it.
So see, I'm learning something. When we read Dana, you got your war horses ready? Okay, we gotta go. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. You have to think with a position ahead of them. And now we're gonna go down. This will take us right into Mount Vernon. And when you see right in front of you is the Poindexter, the historic Poindexter public housing that was the first or second in the country in 1941. And they tore down part of it, but you can see the museum part to the, this is the new part. They tore down the old ones. If you look beyond the new buildings, you'll see the original buildings that Roosevelt came here and opened it and dedicated it back in 41 or 2. I think it was 42, 41. Right there, you can see that.
And
now, are you going
this
straight,
development,
right?
Poindexter, was kind of pushed by the city and the housing authority, and many of us questioned it at the time.
Yeah,
and we've since talked to the housing authority people and said, you know, this is disappointing what we got. It's kind of on a suburban model. If you look at it, there's the parking and the spacing. It doesn't make sense. So it's unfortunate, all this money, and we're going to have this project here another 50, 60 years, but it wasn't really thought out to think for the future. It was a quick reaction to things that they had. They were told by the community many years and certain individuals they wanted it spaced out. They didn't want it crowded feeling. So it's all parking behind there. There's so much wasted land. Mm-hmm. And the housing authority now agrees with us. Yes, we shouldn't have done it like this. So unfortunately, you have things like that happen. And we try. This is the original over here. And you can see that was a much better use of the land, because there were a whole group of these, and we suggested ways to reuse them. There were 400 of them, 400 units in that all this space here and on this side, and this is what's left. We were able to save those, and it's going to be turned into a museum, and they're developing now. And it was the same architect that did the OSU football stadium that did this development. Yeah, it's going to be converted into a museum, and they're working on it now. Yeah. But the way the parking worked with the original buildings made so much more sense than the way it is now. And they put these funny metal fences between these houses. If you look back there, you can see those things are, the gauge of the metal is so cheap, you just pull them apart. Fences don't do any good. People just go right through the fences. Every one of those fences is like that. I mean, that's a waste. But that happens sometimes.
How old are the buildings on the lot?
Oh, 10 years old at the most.
What do you mean, the old ones?
These over here.
These are these are built in 1941.
Okay.
Finished in 1940, yeah.
Yeah, right here.
That's what
Yeah, these over here about 10, the new ones. Okay. Yeah, that's right. The area was used to be called the Blackberry Patch, and Amina Robinson did a lot of her artwork reflecting the livelihood in the Blackberry Patch. And then, but it was an area that got really awful for more than one reason. There were like shanties and things and outdoor plumbing and so forth. So what they did was they tore all that out. And a lot of people didn't want the Blackberry Patch to go away. But then they put this in its place. And it was really an honor and a privilege to live in Poindexter when it was finished. And we met one of the resident advisors before he died. He was in his 90s. And gave us the history and met Roosevelt when he came to open here. So it was a historic place. A lot of people was proud to be living in Poindexter when it was open. Okay, we're gonna just go right around. You can see.
You'll see the parking behind.
Right, and then
it's a waste of land.
We're gonna go back to Mount Vernon, and you'll see the commercial area that's being revived slowly. This is a senior citizen complex right here in front. For senior citizens who want to stay in the neighborhood, we have a couple of senior citizen homes, which we are proud that we have them, that people want to stay in the neighborhood. Right here at the Beatty Recreational Center, where again, activities for kids during the day and the evenings. We have that.
But see, the land use there is just so disappointing.
Now Mount Vernon used to be called the $1 Million Mile, because anything and everything you can get on Mount Vernon. It was like 125th Street in Harlem, you know. It was booming and jumping, and everyone liked going on Mount Vernon. So, but it's not that way now, but it's coming back slowly but surely. And you would also find some new housing on Mount Vernon with infill housing coming in.
It's to the east.
Yeah. I'm here beating up on my mentor here. Suzanne, she's going to get me. Yeah. C.D. Weiss has moved to another location. This is going to be torn down, I think.
So this is a street that's going to be redone. Bike lanes, curbs, sidewalks, new paving. They're going to do the rotary back there at Champion and Mount Vernon. They're going to do one down at St. Clair, roundabout.
And Mount Vernon Amy, they own this building here, and they're talking about redeveloping it. Again, see all the churches, they have some land to do something with. And this is the famous 20th and Mount Vernon. It used to be the hot spot right here. Everything still happens here, good, bad, and indifferent, but it still happens. Yeah. And then when they built this, this is, you can pull over right here, and let me give you the little spiel.
Oh yeah, about the towers?
Yeah, about here. Now, here's the funny thing about this street here. We talk about the Mason-Dixon, the yings and the yangs. There's three things that occurred that allow people to move out of this neighborhood. That people ask, Willis, what happened? If this neighborhood was jumping and bumping and all this kind of stuff, with money flowing like the rivers and all that kind of stuff, what happened? Three things happened that caused people to move out of here. The first one was Brown versus the Board of Education. So how did that affect here? Well, you can now take your money other way. So the businesses that were here, instead of people spending more money here, they were now saying, let's go to the other neighborhood. And they didn't have, then the economy started to drop. Therefore, they didn't have money to hire the young boys to take the groceries to the house. So the Brown versus Board of Education was, everyone was happy about the desegregation, but it also opened up to replenish the economic circle of money in the neighborhood. That's the first thing. Of course, people were able to go other places to shop. They may not live, but they were able to go take their funds, reducing the amount of revenue that the shops here had. The second came in late 50s was the Highways Act. So I put it like this way: the neighborhood was like a battleship. So the first torpedo on the starboard side was that of Brown versus the Board of Education. Then the second torpedo hit the port side now, which is that of the Highways Act, where they cut the neighborhoods in half. Not only here, throughout the country. They always hit all the African American communities. And that went on. But the real coup de grace that stopped everything was when the torpedo hit the rudder. The ship, it didn't sink the ship, it just stopped. So I mean, if you have an engine going and no rudder, how can you steer? So when that happened, it just went stagnant. People start running out of the neighborhood now. Because now you have the economics has dropped, you have the highways cutting up, people they were threatening eminent domain, buying houses on the nickel, pennies on the dollar.
Urban renewal.
And for urban renewal. It came in and it was urban removal. One company that demolished houses, they generated over, like $20 million tearing down over 110 acres in this area back in the 1960s. We found the document where the city stopped it. And so, again, people were moved out to the south end, to the north, but that's what people ran to. Those who stayed because they wanted to, had the means, didn't have the means to move, stayed. Those who wanted to stay just stayed. But those that had the means packed up and left. So, and they left it. Now here you can see, this remained intact to the south. You can see that the building is still, the streets are the same on grid. Over here, what did they create? A plaza to mimic what? The mindset or the vision. They didn't realize what they had was good. They want to look like in the suburbs, parking in front of the building. We had our buildings up on grade. That what urban looks like. You see Long Street, we made the point in our plan, you must bring the building up to the sidewalk. That's urban living. That's for the suburbs. and that's what they wanted to be equal. And this is what they got, and it sounded good. And also, when they opened this plaza after it was finished, it was Carter that came to dedicate it. Now here's the economic crunch. When that urban renewal came in, they told people, oh well, you know, you can get better. The federal government has money you can either tear down or keep what you have and develop it. Here they decided to tear it down because they thought what they were going to get was better. Well, they let it remain vacant. You can stay here and see that freeway that we saw. They left it for 10 years. So all the business left. It was just like a ghost town. One guy put it very clear. We played in the shadows of the bulldozers, leveling all of this, because it looked like this over here. So again, urban renewal was an awful thing. It really put the icing on the cake of devastating and compromising the economic viability of communities, African American communities throughout the country. So now we're in the process of reviving, and we don't want to say the Renaissance, because we're here. Everyone didn't die off, so we're reviving those. You know, like the black churches every year they have a revival to keep their spirit going. So we do that. We're doing that now.
So urban renewal, many people think it has a certain connotation to it. Urban renewal actually gave the power to the city to determine the fate of a certain area designated needing reconsideration. We have two models in Columbus of urban renewal at the same time. Believe it or not, up there at OSU, Victorian Village, Short North area, Neal Avenue, High Street, Denison, down to Goodale Park, was urban renewal area. Same time this area right here was. That urban renewal area, OSU and other parties said, we're going to use that designation, those monies, to save the neighborhood. It was the same housing stock, the same brick houses. They saved it. This one, the city said, nah, those people aren't worth anything. A lot of the realtors realized they could make big money by forcing people out and taking pennies on the dollar. And there were a lot of people that weren't told the truth. So this area was decimated. At the very same time, they saved that one. Everybody goes up to the Short North, they have their big tours, they're all excited how wonderful it looks. The same housing stock. So that's what happened in various cities around the country. So urban renewal had good things about it, but we got the bad side of the coin.
And we're coming up to the Pythian Theater on your left. You can go ahead. We are coming up. And that was a theater, again, that was it's part of the King Arts complex, but it's the Pythian Theater was where the lodge, the Knights of the Pythian, built that building in the 20s, and it still stands today. So 26. We had 5 theaters that were built in this neighborhood. 4 of them were built by African Americans, and one, the Cameo, was built by
which is right here. Yeah, it was
right here. This is, again, this side looked like, had the buildings just like this. And also to your left, you'll see we have a arts group with a container park. They have activities, artwork, and everything right here. And we also have the OSU Extension Center, the only African-American department with their own building in the community. And we have meetings there. We do a lot of things there.
Yeah, it's the only one in the country that's independent of the actual physical campus on a remote location. That's the only place.
Yeah, and I will tell you a story about that one too. Remind me about how that got in the ground. That'll be funny. Now we also have here's the part of the used to be the old Garfield School. Now it's the King Arts Complex activities here. And we have the Urban League. Their headquarters is right here. Can you pull over?
He's going to go up St. Clair.
You can go up St. Clair, right? Yeah. Just pull there for a second. Yeah. Yeah.
And this is where one of the roundabouts is going to be right here in this intersection.
Now he's going up here, yeah. Right. Okay. What we have here is the Urban League this is their empowerment center. They received some funds from the Huntington Bank, and they have sessions in there to help young people to be ready for the job market, training and all that. and that they saved the front and built this back to it. The front is the original from the 1800s, and then this is the new part. We also have the Hotel Sinclair. Remember we talked about the hotel. The building you see coming up on your right, beyond this tree here, is the whole Hotel Sinclair. And the funny story with that is Mrs. Garrett, her and her husband, they purchased it from the two doctors that built it in 1910. And they kept it to keep the workers on the Pennsylvania River, when they got injured, they came here and were rehabilitated to go back to work. And one doctor lived next door, the other one lived around the corner. And so about in the 40s, it kind of went down. So she bought it and then converted it into a hospital. It was into a hotel. And then in the 70s, 80s, then it went down. Her husband died. It was just vacant. So we got together, myself and with the Asbury CDC helped us with monies to revitalize and rebuild that whole building and added another one. So it's 4 buildings. We wanted to put it on the historic designation. So we went into that office with all of our facts and listed what we did. Duke Ellington stayed here. Lionel Hampton stayed here. We showed them the cards where they signed it, da-da-da-da. They said, wonderful. But let me tell you, now imagine, this guy said to us right there, I felt bad for the others. He said, well, listen, if we give you the designation because all the musicians stayed there, then we have to do the same for all the whorehouses they stayed at as well. Let me tell you. Oh, my gosh. They said, oh, how could this white man tell us that? He said, listen. So I got up and said, listen, no problem. Let us dig deeper. It has to be something. So we then hired an attorney who specialized in that. And what they found was that this building, Grant and Riverside Hospital, all built in 1910 as hospitals. This is the only one that's standing. So, but what they did, they gave us the designation because it's the only one standing at the hospital, but all the history is about blacks staying there. So sometimes you can go left or go right. Columbus went west to go east, you can do the same. So we still got the designation, but all the history about it is about the black. It was a beacon for black in the time of where segregation was here, and for when the war came, they couldn't, somebody that were being transported before they shipped out stayed there. So again, how you can go one way to still get the same thing. And so we're going to continue down this street. Shiloh, the church that we told we work with, that's the Shiloh church right there to your left. And the building that's the black on the back, that's the new housing that they're having. But that's the whole Shiloh church. And that the building you see that they're bidding, that's the one we work with the developer and the church for affordable housing. And then, then we're going to come around.
The other thing in this community that's unique is, because it's predominantly African American, black, is its institutions, which set it apart from other neighborhoods. So we have the Urban League, we have the 2 theaters, which are established by black lodges. We have the predominantly African American churches, Second Baptist, Shiloh, Trinity, Refugee. You can go down the list. There's quite a few of them. And then we have the OSU Black Studies Center. And we have some other ones that at the moment don't come to mind, but we have various institutions which are still identifying as dealing with the African American community, which is unique in the inner city neighborhoods.
And that's another major church, Trinity Baptist Church. It's a very powerful church.
Right.
Yeah. And we come back around by Shiloh. Shiloh, we're going up here and we'll come back. Shiloh was an important church because it had a big sanctuary. So we found in our research, Dana and I both, that they had, when it came for big speakers, African American speakers about different things, they would come into Shiloh because they can hold more people. So it was a focal point in the neighborhood because they had the space.
It was like several of the big black churches in the community. It was an amphitheater in the inside, so it was a big open curved area with a balcony overhead, so you could put a lot of people in there. So we had many major events there.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is the townhouses that was built again, with Jimmy Carter, when he opened the plaza, all this was built at that time. All of these houses over here were torn down. All this, I told you, the $20 million back then was by Lowendick. And they built the school. Monroe Middle School was here. But all this was on grid like across the street. So they put these in here and changed the face of the land. And now this is our new
Workforce
development.
housing.
Now workforce development, as they say. Workforce is here. This is new. And this is the back of what Carter opened up. This is for senior citizens. Is this house here, the tower? And this used to be we have the Macon Club there that you see being renovated. It used to be a very, very popular spot right there, the old Macon, and that's still standing. And now we have St. Dominic's, which again, the Catholic Church. We had a lot of African Americans who also were Catholic.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
the church has an active role in the neighborhood in its heyday. And we used to have meetings here when we were doing a lot of our early work. Are there any questions? We're coming to our end of the tour here shortly. So are there any questions that we are getting to that location? Yeah, this is a development that came through Lashutka, Capitol View Estates, one of our first developments since the plaza in the 60s. And they said when they did that, 70 houses that they wouldn't last long. They still looked as wonderful. African Americans, not all African Americans, but it was predominantly African American that purchased those houses and maintained them.
Where's your closest grocery store?
We don't have one yet. Yes, working on that one.
So you spoke a little bit about gentrification and, people aren't really paying what they do. Are there any subsidies or programs for people who have to
Let me tell you, we've been working with them, and we have from the PAC organization to the city. We are definitely trying to have that to keep the people that need repairs to the house in place. Yes, we are on that now to have a designated fund to do that. And they tell me they're working on that, but we have to. We made that very clear. That's necessary to keep the people here that are on fixed incomes, that they can get their house. Because what happened, the code is coming in and coding people. So we're saying no, you can't do that unless you have a pocketbook to help people get their place together. So when seniors get coded, they generally call me. I said, in Bronzeville, you call me and let me speak to you first before you, take a senior to court unnecessarily. Yeah. So we have to work with that. Yes.
How big is your team?
Oh, myself, Dana, we have we have, as far as executive, about a dozen, but then we have people in the neighborhood that we call for certain things. If they're a lawyer, we need you to do this. If you're good at this, we need you to do this, and they pitch in.
But your staff is probably.
Yeah, off and on. Besides us two, who do all the work, they get called to do committee stuff and things
It's
like that.
it is for all neighborhood or civic groups. You have a small group that they're consistently, and then when there's a fire, a threat to the community, suddenly everybody's there.
Yeah.
But if you have the organization in place, then you can do something. If you don't have a chance.
Right.
I was just saying, paid staff.
No, pay.
You can take a right.
We're gonna work on that one. Just 1 second.
We're gonna go right.
Yeah,
By
we're gonna
Shiloh down there.
right. We want to let her off. Yeah, we can let you right off here when we stop here.
So this is the Shiloh.
No, it will be in about another 60
This is
minutes.
the Shiloh development with the church.
So we're gonna-
all this and all this.
Yeah, we're gonna pull up here. Now you said they're gonna come get you at
Yeah, I'm just calling it different.
right, and we're gonna stop here, and you can walk right. That one block there is Long Street.
Yeah, we're going down that way.
But she has to leave now. Oh, you're gonna wait? We're gonna stop at Long.
If you're going along,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is the Shiloh. So we're gonna get back to that paid staff. Yeah, we're all volunteers here. We like to be paid, but that's always an issue. Yeah. So we have people that volunteer when we need them. We have our meetings once a month, and we do what we have to do.
I just say like negotiating all these deals.
Oh, listen. Yeah, but see, now, trust me, we would love to be paid. But let me tell you, the way how to say it, that also compromises you too. So we have to, it's a two-edged sword. So we work, fortunate for us that we can manage ourselves and do that. But all those deals, what we ask them to do is to fund the organization with something. So they generally make a contribution to something. But yeah, it's a very thin line. You know, we would like to be paid. Hopefully we can do more if we had a budget or people donated large amounts of money. But that kind of keeps us neutral, like Switzerland, that we can push them back if we want. But we also say we need you to help us do certain things. And this is the Shiloh Church that we work with, and this is their building for affordable, and this is another one coming up. How the churches can use their land to do more. And they also, this is first phase. They have a second phase. They're going to be building more housing.
Do they have many of their members that live in the neighborhood part and mostly just coming in?
It's coming in, like all the churches here, coming in.
It's like,
Yeah, you can go ahead up there to Long Street there. I mean to our park. Yeah, you're gonna stop at we're gonna stop at the Bronzeville Park, and you can get off for a minute, and then we can tell you that story, and then you'll get back on the bus, and then we'll go around, and you stop at the historic wall, and that'll be it for us. And we'll close this in about 10 minutes from the end. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Now, when we get off here, we're going to tell you the story about this wonderful park. And look at that view of downtown.
$1 million view.
Yeah. And also, now you see that is us. That's
All right.
Go right here.
one in. Well, the money people, such as the Wolves and all those down on Broad Street and in Bexley area, they challenged the federal government and told them, you will not put a raised highway to block our view of downtown. And they won. It's the only part of 71 that's below grade. That's what we have here. And we gotta thank them because it keeps the sound down and it gets the view. That's why all the members at the church and these houses have such a beautiful view of the setting sun when it sets. It's the only part where you don't see the elevated highway is right here on the whole of 71. Because those guys said, you will not do it. You will not do that to us. So it cost them much more to dig down and create this. So again, that was also the dividing. The neighborhood stayed intact even across before they put the highway in 59 it went all the way down to Cleveland Avenue. So when they brought all those houses that we told you about, they moved people out to dig this trench that separated the downtown from the neighborhood. So when they came back, and which you're gonna see the cap in a minute when we go around here, or you see this is one of them, that we said they have to connect the neighborhood with the city. And our organization challenged the Department of Transportation, and the city supported us, that cap is to connect the downtown with the neighborhood. So when you get over there, one side has the cultural wall, the other side is wider, because we said that we want it to be like the short north. In that cement, you have your drainage, your fiber optics, you have your water, your gas, and your lighting, so that restaurants will go on that side to the north. And when you go to your sea, it's wider. So we're gonna have that coming next. And we also have another building that's coming right down the street here called The Deal. And it's if you look it up, The Deal, it would show you that it's a two buildings, Art Deco, facing the downtown. It's two buildings, one is a tall one, is a short one, and on the short one it has Bronzeville, and it's gonna be in lights. And the funeral home that's there is gonna be demolished the end of this, when is it?
This year.
This year, and they're gonna start building next year, and you will see Bronzeville in lights, right
When
there.
you drive down the freeway, you're going to see Bronzeville in
That's
lights.
right. That was part of the negotiation with the developer. They had to do something for us. They didn't give us any money, but they put that in there. So, yeah, like I said, we should be paid, but that's next. That's the next time. But this is where we are.
Park, and this park right here, this space, for a long time, we went by here and always wondered, what is that? What is that? It's an empty lot. And so Willis and I were talking one time, said, we need to talk to the city and see if we can get it a name to it. Why not call it the Bronzeville Park? So we had some discussion, and then Willis instigated all the paperwork, which was extensive with the city, Parks and Rec.
It was awful.
But we got the name, Bronzeville Park. What happened is this woman here, Helen Carter, had a music house. That's what they called them, piano teachers and other people. There were a good number of them in this immediate area. Somehow, after she was gone, this house got torn down by accident. Supposedly, it shouldn't have been come down. So the city had the land, and for some reason, they always maintained it, but there was a lot on the hush-hush. So eventually, with our instigation, we got named for park, and we got her picture turned around. Believe it or not, this stone with her picture was turned the other way. So we got this turned around.
And the sign.
And we got the sign, and they had there's a Near East sign there.
Turned it the other way.
And they had it turned the wrong way. For some reason, things were opposite the way they should have been. So we got all that corrected. We got a sign up there. And then this is where we have our music.
Jazz.
Jazz. We had that last year. And we got some more money so we can do that again.
Right. So, and I tell you, it was such that it was almost like getting a PhD to all the stuff they wanted. And to give it the name, to give us our own park. Because again, other communities have their own park. So now this is ours. We can do what we want here. So they have to put electric and a flagpole, you know, here.
Still working
I think
on that.
they're still working on that, you know. But anyway, this is just to show you, you know, we do have a little recreational part. And those are townhouses that came in with it's called the Whitney. And it's very nice. They did a nice job with them. So we're here. And that was another story too, but it's that they're here and people are living in them. That's a good thing. Because they started it at the wrong time and it sat for a while. And the bad thing about it, we told them not to start the project. But the mayor wanted to impress, because it was having the Black Mayor's Conference or some conference, he wanted to show off that he's doing something in the neighborhood. So he put them in the ground, then the money wasn't there to finish it. So in order for it to get finished, the city had to offer up $7.4 million to finish it. And that wasn't the bad thing about it, is that we didn't mind them finishing, but at least get some returns on the investment. They turned around and gave it all to CMHA. Minimum $1,800 a month is a waiting list to get in there. So I'm just telling you, that's the politics. So, but anyway, they're finished and we're glad that they're done. So we're gonna get on the bus, we're gonna go around, come here, and go across the highway, and then come around, and you're gonna stop at the culture wall, and then that's going to be probably the end for us. You okay with?
Yeah.
And then we have asked any questions that you may have, and then y'all gonna head back. And we live in the neighborhood, so we just walk home. There's all those black folks build these things and do where the money came from. But we have what they call the IBM, International Black Market, which was the numbers, aka the numbers. So, and you played the nickel numbers, combination, single action, the bolita, the back end. In Harlem you played the number before you went to work. And we said, well, gosh, all that illegal stuff. But those number men were the banks. When they needed money, and if you needed rent, or you needed food or clothing for your children, you went to the numbers man. Or if you knew you had issues, he took care of you. Because you were playing those nickel numbers, those 25 cents and those combinations. And it was that the lottery is based on that same concept. Only thing now, we have the computers that generate the numbers, but back then they picked the horses.
Comfortable?
And that's what it was. And it was started by a Jamaican in New York City, in Harlem, back in the 20s. Yeah. So we're gonna go now. This is where the Deal Funeral Home will be torn down. If you ever look on your phones for the Deal, D-I-E-H-L building, you'll see how beautiful it is. And it's gonna be beautiful here. That's coming down, and this is the Elijah. Now see the cap here. This side is wider than this. This is where the restaurants are gonna go. This is all temporary on this side, and we're gonna drive around here and park. We're gonna get out and do a group picture there, and then y'all will be getting back on the bus and then heading back to the hotel. And dinner will be served at that appropriate time. Finding this cat, where they're doing a lot of construction with the highway now, but this was the first. And the dispatch owners and all those people up there in the Bexley area, that was forward thinkers. You will not block our view. And we have an arch here that our former Mayor Coleman put in, again, disregarding the history of Bronzeville. I said, why don't you say, Bronzeville community? Well, he says, you're lucky you got that. Yeah, okay. But the King Lincoln District is just a part of the Bronzeville. And well, it's the King Arts Complex that we saw on Mount Vernon and the Lincoln Theater. And the reason why they did that, we talk about history. When people go into other countries and conquer, they don't understand. They want to put their name. Napoleon was good for doing that. Well, here was the Napoleon complex. That when I presented it to him, here's what the argument was. Bronzeville sounds too black. Imagine a black man saying that Bronzeville sounds too black. You see, ignorance is something else. I tell you, knowledge is important. But they want to make sure that whites will come here, so they didn't want to sound too black. That's why you have the King Lincoln District. But that's our leadership back then. So we had to deal with that too. So, but now it's here to stay. We'll fix that later. It'll be Bronzeville soon.
The City Parks and Rec took all the planting out today, this morning. It was gorgeous.
Yeah,
all these planters, because this time of the year, they want to get everything cleaned up in case there's a freeze. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
You couldn't wait one more day. It was gorgeous.
Yeah. The cultural wall, we know that we want this to happen, and what we try to tell them, all the artists and so forth, that this is wonderful. And then when the mayor got involved, he started influencing the artists to put people that he thinks should be in there and all that kind of stuff. But then we tried to say, this is good, but we should have it where it's roving. So we have all these here. Then after about 3 to 5 years, you take these off and put new ones, and you can move it on to the other one. Or you can have themes, education, sports, whatever. And they're going on a deaf ear again, and they've been going on a deaf ear because this is still here. This needs to be removed and put new ones on. And then I told them what we should do with it is make it a project for the high school. Each one of these people, they must write a one-pager, and you create your own Bible of your own people, your own history. And yet they just like, they're in Mars somewhere again. And I don't know. But it is how it is. We come with ideas, and people at the top get threatened by those that are common folk that say this is what will work. Because we're living out here, we know what works. But sometimes they're hard-headed. So maybe they'll soften up and do that later. Or maybe I get the developer to give us the money to do it. That's the next thing. But anyway, we just want to say thank you for coming. Thank you for taking the tour. We shared this whole lot of stories. And what we would like to do is get a grant that we can have our wonderful Suzanne to write, because she's a great writer. And we want to now do a documentary. We have a lot of footage of all these things that we talked about. We have it on video or something, because we have people that were following us doing videos of us. We have one gentleman who has all that stuff from way back that we need to put in a form to show how people of all colors and all interests came together to revive this community and to maintain the integrity of what we have. And it's very important that we show that. And it's good to do that, but we are looking for that. So if you know anyone that has a $500,000 grant, let me know. We'll make a phone call. And again, that time as Americans, we are definitely gonna come with the olive branch, not the arrows. Okay, again, I'm Willis Brown, president of the Bronzeville Neighborhood Association, formerly of Harlem, New York, still part of that, but live here on Monroe, and really enjoy doing this and sharing the knowledge that we spent years of getting. And hopefully that if you have any questions, you can get my information from Suzanne or anyone that's part of the administration, I guess, to get in touch with us. Yes. Oh yes, the flag. Dana can I'll get the flags. Oh, I'll show you this. Go ahead, Dana, introduce yourself.
Okay. So we thank you for everybody coming out, and it's a very unusual neighborhood in so many different ways. If you choose to investigate it, there's things at the main library.
Great driver.
We said at the Black Studies Center at OSU. They're going to have a big area on Bronzeville, and we are going to be part of a course about Bronzeville. They're no OSU when it's reopened, which is real nice. And the exciting thing about the Extension Center is it has been a nexus, a center of all kinds of community activity for many years, and it's just closed for renovations in the last 2 years. So a lot of the film that Willis has talked about was from events that took place there. So we also have all the various newspapers, because there was a lot of newspapers in the black community. So all those things together gives us a wealth of information to draw on, and we have physical evidence of what we're talking about. A lot of communities didn't have that to the extent that we have, so we're very fortunate.
Right, and great. So again, final comment. You know, as we are in America, you have to have a flag. And we're the only African-American community in Columbus that create our own flag. Now let me tell you about the flag. First, you have the colors. The black is for the people. That was a predominantly African-American population. The white in the center is for the peace that we seek in Bronzeville. We want it to be peaceful, always. And then we have, I mentioned the bronze, the importance of the bronze being strong, flexible, changing. It's ever changing with all the assets that we have in Bronzeville, the people, the housing, the location, the rich history. And then the red, is, as you know, is the blood, sweat, and tears that we constantly deliver and pass on ourselves as we function. And with this particular one, I'm going to dedicate this and give this to Miss Suzanne Parkland. That she had, and she can for all her work in doing things, and she has, and she will have some others that she would do something with later on for those who get them.
How many left? 10?
Yeah, this.
Okay, so there's 10 flags and there's like about 800 of y'all.
And if you want more, you can also get contact and let us know. And we sell them for $25 to pay for the production. Yeah.
Hold it up.
So yes, if you really want one, contact her and Dana.
Yeah.
And we work with economic development with Suzanne, with the youth. We had a wonderful program that we had with the youth to get them involved in things. We took them to the symphony, to the Underground Railroad Museum. We paid them every week. And Dana's mother, Miss Marjorie, she was part of that. We fed them. We took care of those kids. And we only lost 2 of them in the years that we had them with a drive-by shooting. But other than that, they went on to school. One even became a pastor of all people. And one of them is also our postman that we had, and we paid them, and we paid them $5 for cleaning up the neighborhood, 1 hour every Saturday after school. Here's how we had the control. If you were late, you were docked $1. If you acted up, you were docked $1. Imagine $5, you're down to 3. You can guess how many were late, how many acted up. Not many. So I'm just saying, but we had that. She was the coordinator of that and did some things that were just, like you said, pulled things out of the sky. Was this lady right here.
And the neat thing is that we both live in the neighborhood here on Monroe, around the corner from the Lincoln Theater. And every once in a while, and we had this happen about 3 weeks ago, you'll get somebody come by and they'll go, aren't you? And you look at them like, who are you? But they recognize us, and they couldn't believe my mother was still here. They were all excited. Oh my God, she's still alive. Yeah. I said, yes. And they come upon Willis occasionally, and we say, who are you? They got to tell us. Of course, you're not going to recognize them 20, 25 years later.
Yeah, it's good. So again, thank you. If you need more flags, let us know. If you want some work, let us know. Thank you. Yeah.
Can we get the group shot now?
Yeah, the group shot, yeah.